When your boss is in a meeting and you're kneeling under the table. You lick the top and watch his knuckles whiten around the edge as you take him deeper. His voice stays steady, next slide, please, but his breath fractures when you swirl your tongue just right. Every stifled groan is your victory, every shift of his hips a silent plea. The PowerPoint drones on, and his fingers are tangled in your hair, until a sharp inhale. His pen clatters to the floor. And then, you hear him growl. Everyone. Out. Now. Welcome back to African Love Chronicles, your favorite place for stories soaked in passion and soul-deep romance. If you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment to tell us your favorite part of the story. Your support keeps these love tales flowing strong. Thanks for your support. Now, grab your popcorn and let's dive in. I slumped against the passenger seat as Liam's car wove through the chaotic, horn-blaring streets of Lagos. My eyelids felt heavy after a grueling 12-hour shift at Coleman Enterprises. The quarterly marketing campaign had us all working overtime, and as a junior executive, I was stuck with weekend work. You still with me, babe? Liam glanced over, his perfectly styled hair catching the last rays of the setting sun. Barely. I stifled a yawn. Remind me why we're going to this party when I could be face-planting into my pillow right now? Because Chloe would kill you if you missed her birthday. He reached over and squeezed my knee. And because you look stunning in that dress I bought for you. I glanced down at the black cocktail dress he'd insisted I wear. The neckline plunged lower than I was comfortable with, and the hemline rode high enough to make me self-conscious. Liam had shown up at my apartment with the dress in a boutique bag, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. I still think it's a bit much for a birthday party, I said, tugging at the fabric. Lily, we've been dating for 2 years. I know what looks good on you better than you do. Trust me, every guy at this party will wish he was me tonight. Is that what this is about? Marking your territory? Can you blame me? He winked as he turned onto Chloe Street, where luxury cars lined both sides. Chloe's recently purchased triplex stood illuminated against the darkening sky, music pulsing from within. For someone only turning 25, she'd done remarkably well for herself in real estate development. Liam found a spot half a block away and cut the engine. Ready to make an entrance, Ms. Anderson? As I'll ever be. I grabbed my purse and the gift bag containing the vintage champagne Liam had suggested. The cool evening air hit my bare shoulders as I stepped out, making me shiver. Liam's arm slid around my waist, his hand resting dangerously low on my hip. See? Worth getting dressed up for. He nodded toward the house. This place is insane. We walked up the curved driveway, where twinkling lights had been strung through the palm trees. The front door stood open, spilling light, music, and laughter onto the porch. Lily! You made it! Chloe appeared in the doorway, resplendent in a gold sequined dress. I was starting to think you'd stood me up. My work tried its best to keep me away, I laughed, accepting her hug. Happy birthday, Chloe. And Liam, looking delicious as always. She air-kissed his cheeks. Come in, come in. Everyone's already 2 drinks ahead of you. Liam's hand pressed against the small of my back as we entered the foyer, which opened to a massive great room where at least 30 people mingled. The space featured floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the twinkling Lagos skyline. Drink? Liam asked, already scanning the room. God, yes. The strongest thing they've got. He chuckled. That's my girl. Be right back. As Liam disappeared toward the bar, I heard a familiar squeal from across the room. Lily Anderson, get your butt over here. I turned to see Emily waving frantically from a plush sectional sofa. My best friend since college was already flushed from alcohol, her blonde hair falling in waves around her shoulders. I navigated through clusters of guests to reach her. How long have you been here? Long enough to know the bartender's life story. She stood, wobbling slightly in her heels, and embraced me. She pulled back, holding me at arm's length to examine my outfit. Holy shit, your boobs look amazing in that dress. Did Liam pick it out? I felt my cheeks warm. Is it that obvious? Only because I've known you for 8 years, and you've never willingly shown that much cleavage. She smirked. Not that I'm complaining. If I had your rack, I'd show it off, too. Could you say that a little louder? I don't think everyone in Akoi heard you. Sorry, can't help it. You're too easy to embarrass. Emily's eyes danced with mischief as she took another sip of her drink. By the way, have you seen our birthday girl? I swear she was here greeting people and then just vanished. I scanned the crowded room. No, actually. Where did Liam go? He was supposed to be getting me a drink. Maybe he's outside? I saw some people heading to the back lawn earlier. Emily shrugged. Or he could be sneaking a cigarette. I narrowed my eyes. He told me he quit 3 months ago. If I catch him smoking after all that, I'm done with nicotine forever. Baby bullshit, I'll kill him myself. Men lie about the stupidest things. Just admit you still smoke and save us both the drama. I'm going to find him, I said, tugging at my dress, which had ridden up dangerously high. If he's outside with a cigarette, I'm putting it out on his favorite shoes. That's my girl. Emily raised her glass. I'll be right here judging everyone's outfit choices when you get back. I weaved through the crowded living room, nodding at half-familiar faces. The kitchen was jammed with people mixing drinks. No Liam. The back patio held a group playing drinking games. No Liam among them. Looking for someone? A tall guy with a man bun approached. My boyfriend. Tall, dark hair, probably looking smug about something. He laughed. Haven't seen him. But I'd be happy to keep you company until he shows up. Hard pass, but thanks. I turned away, irritation building. Where the hell was Liam with my drink? I climbed the modern floating staircase to the next floor. The hallway was dimly lit, and several closed doors lined it. A sound caught my attention, a moan? A laugh? Something between the two. It was faint, coming from further down the hall. The sound came again, more distinct this time. Definitely a moan. Great. A couple had found a private spot to hook up at Chloe's party. How classy. I was about to turn back when I noticed a slightly ajar door at the end of the hallway, a sliver of light spilling onto the hardwood floor. Something compelled me forward, curiosity, or perhaps a sixth sense I didn't know I had. As I approached, the sounds became clearer. A woman's voice, breathless and urgent, oh God, yes, right there. I froze. The voice was familiar. A male voice responded, low and commanding, you like that, don't you? Tell me how much you want it. My stomach dropped. Liam's voice. I should have turned away, run down those stairs, and straight out the front door. Instead, I moved closer, pushing the door open wider. The scene burned into my retinas like a brand. There was Chloe, pressed against her dresser. Liam stood behind her, far too close. Her dress was hitched up, his shirt untucked, their bodies moving in betrayal's cruel rhythm. My voice cracked the air like glass shattering. What the hell? They both froze. Liam's head snapped toward me, eyes wide with guilt. Lil, this isn't what it looks like? I snapped. Because it looks exactly like you're cheating on me with my friend while I wait downstairs for a drink that never came. Chloe smirked. Oh, Lily. Did you really think a man like Liam would be satisfied with just you? The words sliced deeper than knives. My body trembled, but my voice was steady. 2 years. 2 years of loyalty, for this? Emily appeared at my side, her gasp sharp enough to shatter glass. Holy hell. Are you serious right now? Liam reached for me. Baby, please, it's nothing. Just physical. I laughed bitterly. Just physical? With my friend? Chloe folded her arms, smug. We're adults. Monogamy is so limiting. Emily exploded. The only thing limited here is your morals. Liam tried again. Lil, I love you. Don't, I cut him off. If this is your version of love, I don't want it. Emily dragged me away, down the stairs, out into the Lagos night. My heart was breaking. But the night wasn't done with me yet. We walked fast, heels clicking against the pavement. My hand shook, my chest tight. A car slowed beside us. 4 men inside. Music blasting. Bottles waving. Hey, pretty ladies, the driver grinned, gold tooth flashing. Need a ride? Not interested, Emily snapped. Ah, don't be like that, one slurred, climbing out. He staggered toward us, eyes gleaming with mischief. He grabbed Emily's hair, yanking. She screamed. Let her go. I shouted, swinging my purse into him. He stumbled but sneered. Feisty. I like that. The others got out, circling us. One leaned too close, his breath hot and sour. You're dressed for attention. We're just giving it to you. Back off. I yelled, shoving him. Emily cried out as her attacker pulled harder. My pulse thundered. Panic clawed my throat. Then. Enough. The voice cut through the night like a blade. A tall figure stepped from the shadows. Broad-shouldered. Sharp-eyed. His presence froze the group instantly. Michael Coleman. The CEO. My boss's boss's boss. I believe they told you to leave them alone, he said, calm but dangerous. Walk away. Now. The man bristled. And if we don't? One sneered. Michael's gaze was ice. Then the police I already called will finish what I started. Emily's captor released her with a shove. They muttered curses, climbed back into their car, and peeled off into the night. Silence. My breath ragged. Emily clung to me. Michael turned to us. Are you both all right? Up close, he was even more intimidating than he was at company events. Tall, with sharp features and piercing gray eyes, he had the kind of face that belonged in business magazines, where it often appeared. Despite the late hour, his dark hair was neatly styled, not a strand out of place. We're okay, I managed, suddenly conscious of my appearance, disheveled hair, makeup probably smeared from crying earlier, and this ridiculous dress that now felt like a terrible mistake. Thank you for stopping. Do you need a ride somewhere? He asked, his eyes briefly dropping to my chest before snapping back to my face. Our cab cancelled, Emily said, still rubbing her scalp. And my boyfriend's not answering his phone. Michael gestured to his car, a sleek black car. I'm happy to drive you both home. I hesitated. This was Michael Coleman, the man who signed my paychecks and whose name was on the building where I worked. The man was known for his ruthless business tactics and cold demeanor. The last thing I needed was for him to realize I was one of his employees, especially looking like this. That's very kind, I said carefully, but we don't want to impose. It's no imposition, he replied. I'd rather not leave you out here after what just happened. Emily looked at me with raised eyebrows, silently communicating, are you crazy? Free ride in a sleek car with a hot, rich guy? Say yes. If you're sure it's not too much trouble, I relented. Not at all. He opened the backseat door. Please. The car's interior was all black leather and gleaming surfaces. It smelled of expensive cologne and a new car, a heady combination that made my head spin, or maybe that was the adrenaline crash. I'm Michael Coleman, he said as he slid behind the wheel. Lily, I replied, deliberately omitting my last name. And this is Emily. Pleasure to meet you both, despite the circumstances. He started the engine, which purred to life. Where am I taking you? Emily gave him her address first, and then I gave him mine. Rough night, he asked as we pulled away from the curb. Emily snorted. You could say that. We were at a birthday party where Lil caught her boyfriend banging the birthday girl. Emily. I hissed, mortified. Michael's eyes flicked to me in the rearview mirror. I see. I'm sorry to hear that. It's fine, I mumbled, wishing I could disappear into the leather seat. It's not fine, Emily insisted. Liam is a cheating scumbag who deserves to have his dick fall off. A small smile tugged at the corner of Michael's mouth. I take it Liam is the ex-boyfriend? As of about a few minutes ago, yes, I confirmed, wondering why I was discussing my love life with my CEO. Well, for what it's worth, he said, his eyes meeting mine briefly in the mirror again, he sounds like an idiot. The car fell silent as we drove through the streets of Lagos, the city lights blurring past the windows. I studied Michael's profile, the strong jaw, and straight nose, wondering why he'd stopped to help us. Everything I'd heard about him at work painted him as cold, distant, focused only on the bottom line. We reached Emily's apartment building first. Michael pulled up to the curb, the engine purring quietly as he shifted into park. This is me, Emily announced, gathering her purse. She leaned over to hug me, using the moment to whisper in my ear. Holy fuck, Lil. He's hot as balls. If he wants to bang you senseless tonight, you better fucking do it. The best way to get over Liam is to get under the CEO. Shit, those hands look like they know what they're doing. I pulled back, shooting her a death glare that could have melted steel. What? She mouthed innocently before turning to Michael. Thanks for the ride, knight in shining Armani. You're a lifesaver. It was no trouble, he replied politely. Emily opened the door, then paused to give me one last meaningful look. Call me tomorrow with all the details. She waggled her eyebrows suggestively. Goodbye, Emily, I said firmly, my cheeks burning. She blew me a kiss and slammed the door, sauntering toward her building with a little extra sway in her hips, no doubt for Michael's benefit. As we pulled away, I sank deeper into the leather seat, mortified. I'm so sorry about her. She has no filter. Michael's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. No need to apologize. She seems like a good friend. The best, I admitted. Even if she occasionally makes me want to strangle her. His lips quirked upward, almost a smile but not quite. Those are often the best kinds of friends. We lapsed into silence as he navigated through the streets of Lagos. The city lights streamed past the windows, creating a kaleidoscope effect that matched my swirling thoughts. I caught Michael glancing at me in the mirror a few times, his expression unreadable. Left at the next light, I directed as we approached my neighborhood. He nodded, making the turn smoothly. Here we are, he announced, pulling up to my apartment building. It wasn't fancy by Lagos standards but clean and in a decent area. He turned off the engine and, to my surprise, got out to open my door. His hand extended to help me out, warm and solid as I took it. The contact sent an unexpected jolt up my arm. Thank you again, I said, reluctantly letting go of his hand. For everything tonight. Michael studied me for a moment, his gray eyes intense. I hope you're able to move past what happened tonight. Your boyfriend, or rather your ex-boyfriend, clearly didn't appreciate what he had. The unexpected kindness in his voice made my throat tighten. I'll be fine, I managed. I'm sure you will, he agreed. Someone like you won't stay single for long unless you want to. I wasn't sure how to respond to that. Was Michael Coleman, CEO of Coleman Enterprises, flirting with me? No, that was ridiculous. He was just being polite. Good night, Lily, he said, stepping back toward his car. Good night, Michael. And thank you for the ride. He nodded once, then slid back into his car. I watched as he drove away, his taillights disappearing around the corner before I turned and entered my building. The elevator ride to my fourth-floor apartment felt endless. My keys jangled in my shaking hands as I unlocked my door, stepping into the darkness of my living room. I flipped on the light, tossed my purse on the counter, and kicked off my heels. The silence of my apartment pressed in around me. Just hours ago, I'd been getting ready for what I thought would be a normal night out with my boyfriend. Now, everything had changed. I peeled off the black cocktail dress and threw it in the trash. Never again would I wear something just because a man told me it looked good on me. In my bathroom, I scrubbed off my makeup. The woman in the mirror looked tired, her eyes red-rimmed but clear. I pulled on an oversized t-shirt and fell onto my bed, staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, probably Liam finally realizing what he'd lost. I ignored it. Why had he done it? 2 years together, and he throws it all away for Chloe? Had he been sleeping with her all along? The signs had been there, the late nights at work, the sudden business trips, the way his phone was always face down when I was around. I'd trusted him completely. What a fool I'd been. My phone buzzed again. This time, I glanced at it. Emily. You home safe? Did Mr. CEO make a move? Please say yes. I texted back, yes, I'm home. No, he didn't. Go to sleep. Her response was immediate, boring. But seriously, you okay? I will be, I replied and realized I meant it. I tossed my phone onto the nightstand and stared at the ceiling, my mind racing despite my exhaustion. Sleep seemed impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Liam thrusting into Chloe, her smug face, his pathetic excuses. Gosh, I whispered to the empty room. 2 years down the drain. I rolled over, burying my face in my pillow. 2 years of holidays, family gatherings, inside jokes, all tainted now. But something else kept intruding on my thoughts, Michael Coleman's piercing gray eyes in the rearview mirror. Michael Coleman. My CEO. The man I'd just met while looking like a complete disaster. He probably won't even remember me tomorrow, I muttered, flipping onto my back again. Why would he? The ceiling offered no answers. I'd worked at Coleman Enterprises for 8 months and never once spoken to him. I'd seen him striding through the lobby, standing at podiums during company-wide meetings, his face on the company website and annual reports. Always distant. Always untouchable. And now he'd seen me at my absolute worst, heartbroken in a slutty dress. Great first impression, Lily. Really professional. I snorted at my own sarcasm. It was as if Michael Coleman would ever connect the disheveled woman he'd rescued with Lily Anderson, a junior marketing executive. Our worlds didn't intersect. He inhabited the executive floor with its panoramic views of Lagos. At the same time, I worked in my cubicle 15 floors below, crafting social media campaigns for products I could barely afford. I pulled the covers over my head, trying to force sleep to come. But my brain had other ideas, conjuring an image of running into Michael in the office elevator. Would he recognize me? Would I have the courage to thank him again? Would he look at me with those intense gray eyes and see past the professional facade to the woman he'd rescued? As if, I mumbled into my pillow. He probably rescues women from creeps every weekend. It's probably a rich guy's hobby. But what if he did remember me? What if our paths crossed in the office cafeteria or during a presentation? What would I say? I parked my car in the circular driveway of my parents' estate, taking a moment to prepare myself for the inevitable Coleman family dynamics. Sunday dinner at the Coleman mansion, a tradition as old as the oak trees lining the property, was something I both dreaded and looked forward to. The mansion stood like a monument to old money, with stone facades and manicured gardens that screamed, "We've had wealth for generations." My phone buzzed with an email from work, but I ignored it. Work could wait, but family obligations couldn't, especially when Grandfather Henry was involved. I straightened my tie and headed inside, where Martha, our longtime housekeeper, greeted me with a warm smile. "Mr. Michael, everyone's waiting in the drawing room. Your grandfather arrived early." That was never a good sign. Grandfather arriving early meant he had an agenda. "Is Victoria here?" I asked, handing Martha my coat. "Yes, sir. With her husband. They arrived about an hour ago." "Perfect." My cousin Victoria and her investment banker husband Thomas, the power couple who never let anyone forget how perfect their life was. The drawing room buzzed with conversation that stopped when I entered. Mother rose from her seat, elegant as always in her pearl necklace and tailored dress. "Michael, darling." We were beginning to worry. I kissed her cheek. "Traffic was terrible." "Sorry, I'm late." Father nodded from his armchair, whiskey in hand. "Son." That was Father, a man of few words and less discussing business or golf. Victoria sat perched on the antique sofa, her husband's arm draped around her shoulder in that possessive way I found irritating. My sister Valerie was there, too, scrolling through her phone. But it was Grandfather Henry who commanded the room from his wheelchair. At 78, he might have lost some mobility but none of his mental sharpness or business acumen. "Michael," he barked. "Sit down. We need to talk." I took a seat across from him. "Good to see you too, Grandfather. Don't get smart with me, boy. I've been waiting." Victoria smirked. "Some of us managed to arrive on time, cousin dear." I ignored her. "What's this about? I thought this was just dinner." Grandfather Henry waved his hand dismissively. "Dinner can wait. This is about the future of Coleman Enterprises." The room fell silent. When Grandfather talked about the company's future, everyone paid attention. He'd built Coleman Enterprises from a small family business into a corporate empire and, at 78, still held the controlling stake. "I've been updating my will," he announced. Mother gasped softly. Father set down his whiskey. "Oh, relax, I'm not dying yet," Grandfather snapped. "Just getting my affairs in order. And I've made some decisions about the company shares." I leaned forward. As CEO, I had a significant stake in the company, but Grandfather's controlling shares would eventually determine who truly ran Coleman Enterprises. "Michael," he fixed his steely gaze on me. "You've done well as CEO. Profits are up. The board is happy. But there's something missing." "Missing?" I frowned. "Our last quarter was our best in 5 years. I'm not talking about business. He thumped his cane on the floor. I'm talking about family. Stability. A legacy. Victoria's husband coughed discreetly. Victoria's smile widened. What exactly are you saying, grandfather? Henry Coleman leaned forward in his wheelchair. I'm saying that to inherit my controlling shares in Coleman Enterprises, you need to be married within 6 months. The room exploded in reactions. Mother gasped again. Father actually put down his drink. Valerie looked up from her phone. Victoria burst into delighted laughter. Married? I stared at him. You can't be serious. Dead serious. Grandfather's expression didn't change. Coleman Enterprises has always been family-run. Family means stability. Commitment. I'm committed to the company. But not to anything or anyone else. Grandfather shook his head. You're 33, Michael. Your relationships last shorter than some of our quarterly reports. Victoria couldn't contain herself. Oh, this is priceless. Is Michael getting married? He can't even keep a girlfriend past the 3-month mark. Thank you for that astute observation, Victoria, I said, forcing a smile. Always a pleasure to have your support. Uncle Richard, Victoria's father, chuckled from the corner of the room. The boy does have a track record. A track record? My father set his tumbler down with more force than necessary. Last year, we selected a perfectly suitable woman for him. The engagement was announced in the Times, for God's sake. And then what happened, Michael? I loosened my tie slightly. Dad. He cancelled it 2 weeks before the wedding, Father continued, addressing the room like I wasn't there. The merger nearly fell apart because of it. Aunt Patricia gasped dramatically. Penelope Langford? Such a lovely girl and from a good family. What a shame. She wasn't right for me, I said firmly. Valerie finally looked up from her phone. He didn't like her. Said she reminded him of a corporate spreadsheet, technically perfect but utterly boring. Thank you for sharing that, Val, I muttered. My sister shrugged and went back to her phone. Just telling it like it is. Grandfather Henry thumped his cane again. Enough. The terms are simple. Michael marries within 6 months, or Victoria receives my controlling stake in the company. Victoria nearly spilled her champagne in excitement. Really, grandfather? You'd give me control? Her husband Thomas straightened his posture, dollar signs practically visible in his eyes. I didn't build this company for 40 years to watch it get dismantled by your husband's investment firm, grandfather snapped at Victoria. But at least you understand commitment. I stood up, pacing the Persian rug. This is absurd. You're reducing the future of our family business to whether or not I get married? What century is this? The century where actions have consequences, grandfather replied. Victoria may be insufferable. Hey! Victoria protested. But she's stable. Married. Committed. Victoria's smirk returned. Face it, Michael. You couldn't commit to a woman if your life depended on it. Now your career does, and we all know how that's going to end. Something snapped inside me. I'd tolerated Victoria's barbs for years, but this was different. This was my life's work at stake. You know what, Victoria? You're wrong. Am I? She swirled her champagne. Name one relationship you've had that lasted longer than a corporate quarterly report. My cousin Matthew, who'd been silently watching the drama unfold, whistled low. She's got you there, Mike. I straightened my shoulders. I'll do it. I'll get married within 6 months. The room fell silent again. To whom? Father asked skeptically. I'll figure that out. Victoria burst into laughter. Oh, this is too good. Michael Coleman, CEO and eligible bachelor, desperately seeking a wife. Should we put an ad in the classifieds? Her husband joined in. Maybe we should start interviewing candidates. Create a short list. I don't need help finding someone, I said through gritted teeth. Aunt Elizabeth, who'd been quietly knitting in the corner, looked up. What about that nice PR director at your company? Jennifer, something? She's married, Mother, Victoria said. Oh. Well, what about your assistant? I'm not marrying my assistant, Aunt Elizabeth. Grandfather Henry raised his hand for silence. The terms are set. 6 months from today. Uncle Richard raised his glass. To Michael's impending nuptials. May he find a bride before Victoria gets his office. Victoria clinked glasses with her father. I'm already planning where to put my new desk. I clenched my jaw. Enjoy the fantasy while it lasts, cousin. I'm not losing the company. 6 months, Michael, grandfather reminded me. The clock starts now. I slept fitfully, my mind a carousel of images, Liam's shocked face, Chloe's smug smirk, and, oddly, Michael Coleman's piercing grey eyes watching me in the rearview mirror. The weekend crawled by in a haze. I spent most of the time curled up on my couch, binging old movies, eating takeout, and ignoring the world, especially Liam's desperate attempts to reach me. I let myself grieve, but by Sunday night, I was done crying. Liam didn't deserve another tear. Monday morning arrived with brutal efficiency. I dragged myself into the shower, letting the hot water pound away the remnants of Friday night's disaster. No tears, I'd shed enough of those already. Liam didn't deserve them. I wrapped myself in a towel and stared at my closet. What does one wear after catching their boyfriend balls deep in another woman? I opted for armor, a crisp white blouse, a black pencil skirt, and highest heels. The kind of outfit that said, I'm fine, fuck you very much. The cab ride to Coleman Enterprises took 20 minutes. I spent it scrolling through Liam's increasingly desperate texts. Baby, please let me explain. It was a mistake. Call me. I love you, not her. Delete. 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 Coleman Enterprises occupied a gleaming 60-story tower in downtown Lagos. I'd been working there for 8 months as a junior marketing executive, and despite the drama of my personal life imploding, I still felt a flutter of pride walking through those glass doors. The elevator whisked me to the 42nd floor. I stepped into the marketing department, where Nova was already at her desk, sipping her usual triple-shot espresso. Morning, sunshine, she called, then squinted at me. You look different. New lipstick? New life status. Single. I dropped my bag at my desk. Before Nova could respond, Vivian breezed in, her red curls bouncing as she walked. Ladies, you won't believe the email I just got. Apparently, the big boss himself will be sitting in on our presentation this week. Michael Coleman? I nearly choked on the words. The one and only, Vivian confirmed, perching on the edge of my desk. Why do you look like you've seen a ghost? It's not like you'll have to talk to him. If only she knew. I'm just surprised, I managed. He doesn't usually attend department presentations. Alice arrived last, as usual, balancing a stack of folders and her phone. Sorry, I'm late. The barista got my order wrong twice. What did I miss? Michael Coleman's coming to our presentation, and Lily's single, Nova summarized. Alice's eyes widened. What? Which one should I address first? The presentation, I said quickly. It's more important. Like hell it is, Nova swiveled her chair to face me fully. Spill it, Anderson. What happened with Liam? I sighed, lowering my voice. I caught him cheating with Chloe at her birthday party. All 3 women froze. Chloe Santos? The one whose party you rushed off to? Vivian clarified, her mouth hanging open. I nodded. That backstabbing cunt, Nova breathed. I hope his ball falls off, Alice added, patting my shoulder. That's almost verbatim what Emily said, I laughed despite myself. What did you do? Vivian leaned in, hungry for details. I dumped him on the spot and left. End of story. Good for you, Nova said firmly. You deserve someone who knows what he has. Preferably someone with a bigger bag and a functioning moral compass, Alice suggested. Can we please focus on work now? I begged. I have the social media analytics to finish before lunch. They reluctantly returned to their desks, but I caught them shooting me concerned glances throughout the morning. I buried myself in spreadsheets and engagement metrics, grateful for the distraction. The last thing I needed was to think about that night, including my unexpected encounter with Michael Coleman. The CEO of Coleman Enterprises wasn't just my boss, he was a legend in the business world. Cold, calculating, brilliant. He'd taken his grandfather's company and transformed it into a multinational corporation in less than a decade. The tabloids occasionally linked him with models or actresses, but he was notoriously private. And I really didn't want him to connect the dots between the disheveled woman he'd rescued and Lily Anderson, a junior marketing executive. At lunch, we headed to the company cafeteria on the 30th floor. I scanned the room instinctively, relaxing when I didn't spot any tall, dark-haired executives. "So," Vivian said as we settled at our usual table, "tell us more about Friday. You rushed out of here like your ass was on fire." I poked at my salad. "Not much to tell. I got to the party, couldn't find Liam, went looking for him, and found him bent over Chloe's dresser, drilling her like he was looking for oil." Nova snorted water through her nose. "Jesus, Lil. Warning next time." "What did you say?" Alice asked, leaning forward. I asked if they'd been careful and reminded him that monogamy is apparently very limiting. I stabbed a cherry tomato. Then I told him to go to hell or Chloe. Whichever. Queen shit, Vivian raised her water bottle in a toast. "To Lily, who doesn't take crap from cheating assholes." "To Lily," the others echoed. "Anything else interesting happened?" Alice asked. "Did you key his car? Throw drinks? Create a scene?" I hesitated. "No, nothing like that. Emily and I just left." I couldn't bring myself to mention Michael. It felt too surreal, too private somehow. The next few days passed in a blur of work and ignored calls from Liam. I threw myself into the upcoming presentation, staying late to perfect the slides and rehearse my talking points. If Michael Coleman was going to be there, everything needed to be flawless. Not that he'd recognize me. He probably rescued women from creeps all the time. Why would he remember one random encounter? Thursday morning, I arrived early to set up the conference room. Our presentation on the new social media campaign was scheduled for 10 a.m., and my stomach had been in knots since I woke up. "Relax," Nova said, adjusting the projector. "Coleman probably won't even show up. These executives always have emergencies that pull them away. And if he does show up, he'll be on his phone the whole time," Vivian added, straightening the chairs. Alice arrived with a tray of coffee. "Or he'll leave halfway through." That's what happened at the last sales presentation. Their attempts at reassurance weren't helping. I couldn't shake the image of Michael recognizing me, his eyebrows rising in surprise as he connected the dots between professional Lily Anderson and the emotional wreck he'd driven home. By 9:55, the room was filled with marketing staff and a few executives I recognized from other departments. I took my position near the front, reviewing my notes one last time. At exactly 10 a.m., the room fell silent. I looked up to see Michael Coleman striding through the door, followed by two assistants. He was even more imposing in his natural habitat with a charcoal suit perfectly tailored to his broad shoulders, and his presence commanded attention effortlessly. He nodded to the room and took a seat in the back row. I quickly looked down at my notes, my heart hammering against my ribs. The presentation began. I delivered my lines flawlessly, my voice steady despite the chaos inside me. My colleagues handled their sections with a practiced ease, and I finally relaxed a bit as we moved to the Q&A portion. After the presentation concluded, and I packed my things, my mind still replaying Michael Coleman's questions. The flicker of recognition in his eyes had my heart in a vice grip. As I headed for the door, I heard his voice. "Ms. Anderson, could you please stay behind for a moment?" I froze, turning to see him standing at the front of the room, his assistants gone. My colleagues shot me curious glances as they filed out. When the room was empty, he spoke again. "Follow me, please." He led me out of the conference room and into the executive elevator. The door slid closed, and we ascended in silence. My reflection in the polished steel doors showed a woman trying her best to look calm and professional, but my white-knuckled grip on my portfolio gave me away. He didn't break the silence until the elevator doors opened on the top floor. This floor was a different world entirely. The air was quieter, the lighting more subdued, and the carpet seemed to absorb all sound. He led me past a receptionist's desk to a large office with a panoramic view of the Lagos skyline. The walls were lined with bookshelves, and the decor was modern, minimalist, and very much his. "Take a seat, Ms. Anderson," he said, gesturing to one of the two leather armchairs facing his desk. I sat, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. He walked around to his chair, sat, and laced his fingers on the desk. He didn't speak for a long moment, his gaze fixed on me. It was a gaze that was both disarming and unnerving. "I have to confess, I didn't recognize you at first," he finally began, and my stomach flipped at his words. You were so composed and professional during the presentation. A stark contrast to the emotional wreck I drove home the other night. A small, almost imperceptible smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. You're a talented speaker. Your presentation was very impressive. The way you broke down the data and made it accessible to everyone was exceptional. You didn't just report numbers, you told a story. It's a skill few people have. I felt my cheeks flush, a mix of embarrassment and gratitude. Thank you, Mr. Coleman. He leaned back, his expression unreadable. How are you? You never did answer me the other night. I'm better, I replied, my voice a little shaky. Thank you for asking. You don't sound better. His eyes held a flicker of something I couldn't quite name. I'm not a fool, Lily. I know what it's like to have your world turned upside down. He paused, his gaze fixed on me. You're not just a talented executive, Lily. I saw you on that street. I saw how you fought for your friend, how you stood your ground even when you were terrified. You're strong. And that, in my world, is a quality I can't afford to live without. He pushed a thick folder across the desk. I've been looking for a wife, Lily. A contract marriage. My grandfather, who still controls the company, has given me an ultimatum. I have 6 months to get married, or he'll give everything to my cousin, Victoria. I've done my research, and I know you're in a difficult position. I know about your family, the medical bills, the debt. I can help. I can make all your problems disappear. I stared at him, my mind reeling. A contract marriage? Was he insane? Mr. Coleman, with all due respect, I don't understand. This isn't about love, Lily. It's about a business deal. I need a wife. Not a lover, not a soulmate, but a partner. Someone who is intelligent and discreet. Someone who can handle the pressure of being married to me and can represent my brand with class and composure. He continued, his voice calm and steady. I'm offering you a way out. A financial package that would erase your debts and provide for your family for the rest of their lives. In exchange, you will be my wife for 2 years, in name only. You will be my partner at public events and my confidant in private. We will have separate lives and separate bedrooms. This is a business deal, Lily. Nothing more. He opened the folder and placed a copy of the contract on the desk. This is a draft of the contract. Read it. If you're interested, you have 48 hours to give me an answer. He stood, signaling the end of the meeting. I stood as well, my knees feeling weak. I picked up the folder, my hands trembling. Why me? I whispered, my voice barely audible. There are thousands of women who would jump at this. Why me? He walked around the desk, his presence towering over me. Because I saw you on that street. You're not just smart and beautiful, Lily. You're strong. And that, in my world, is a quality I can't afford to live without. I walked out of his office a few moments later, the folder feeling heavy in my hands. I was no longer just Lily Anderson, a junior executive. I was a woman with a choice that could change the lives of everyone I loved. I spent the next 48 hours in a haze of confusion and fear. The folder felt heavy in my hands, a silent promise of a life I couldn't imagine. My pride told me to run, to forget about Michael Coleman and his outrageous proposition. But every time I thought about my family, my brother's mounting medical bills, my parents' empty bank account, the weight of my reality pulled me back. I was drowning, and this was an outstretched hand. On Wednesday morning, I held the folder in my hand, my heart pounding against my ribs. I had to do it. For them. I walked into an empty conference room and dialed his number. A cool, professional voice answered, Mr. Coleman's office. How may I help you? My name is Lily Anderson. I have an appointment with Mr. Coleman. My voice shook slightly. One moment, please. A few seconds later, a deep, familiar voice came through the phone. Lily. Thank you for calling. Mr. Coleman, I said, my throat dry. I've thought about your proposition. I'd like to talk. Good, he said, his voice calm and steady, like a rock in my churning sea of emotions. Meet me at the Sky Lounge at 7 p.m. tonight. It's a private club. I'll send you the address. He hung up, leaving me with a text message containing the address. I spent the rest of the day in a daze, barely able to focus on my work. My colleagues, oblivious to the storm raging inside me, talked about the weekend, but I couldn't hear them. All I could hear was Michael's voice, his offer, and the quiet desperation of my family's struggles. At 7 p.m., I stood outside the Sky Lounge, a sleek, modern building that towered over the city. I smoothed down my simple black dress and took a deep breath. This was it. I was about to make a deal that would change my life forever. I walked inside and was led to a private corner where Michael sat, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He stood as I approached, his presence commanding and a bit intimidating. "Lily," he said, pulling out a chair for me. "Thank you for coming." "Thank you for having me," I replied, my voice more confident than I felt. We talked for an hour, our conversation a mix of business and a strange kind of intimacy. He laid out the terms of the contract. Article 1, Duration and Public Relations. The marriage would last for 2 years, after which it would be dissolved by mutual consent. During this time, we would present ourselves as a happy, loving couple in public. We would attend corporate events, family gatherings, and social functions together. Article 2, Financial Compensation. I would receive a lump sum payment of N$100 million upfront, with an additional monthly allowance of N$5 million for personal expenses. Article 3, Family Support. A trust fund of N$250 million would be established for my family's medical and living expenses, to be managed by an independent fiduciary. Article 4, Confidentiality. The terms of the contract would be kept in strict confidence. No one, not even my family or friends, would be told about the arrangement. Article 5, Personal Autonomy. We would have separate bedrooms and private lives. The marriage would be in name only, with no romantic or physical intimacy required. Article 6, Breach of Contract. If either of us were to violate the terms of the contract, the marriage would be immediately dissolved, and the violating party would be subject to a penalty of N$500 million. "I won't ask anything of you that you don't want to give," he said, his gray eyes searching mine. "This is a partnership, Lily. It's about respect, trust, and mutual benefit." I looked at him, the man who had rescued me from my worst night and was now offering me a way out of my darkest struggles. He was cold, yes, but he was also honest. He didn't promise me a fairy tale, he offered me a transaction, a deal that would save my family. "I agree," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I'll do it." A flicker of surprise, then something else I couldn't name, crossed his face. He nodded slowly, a single, sharp motion. "Good. We'll start tomorrow." I left the Sky Lounge a few hours later, a contract tucked into my purse and a new life on the horizon. I wasn't just Lily Anderson anymore, I was soon to be Mrs. Michael Coleman. That evening, a text from Michael Coleman confirmed his address, a sleek, modern, glass-walled penthouse high above the city. My new home for the next 2 years. He had also sent a driver to pick me up and take me to my new life. I packed a suitcase, my mind racing as I folded my clothes. This was really happening. I was leaving my old life behind and stepping into a world I knew nothing about. The car ride was silent, the city lights a blur as we ascended toward the penthouse. The driver pulled up to a glass building with a private elevator. Michael was waiting for me. His presence was a quiet force. He was wearing a charcoal gray suit, and his face was calm, his gray eyes unreadable. He led me into the penthouse, which was even more impressive than I had imagined. It was all glass, steel, and minimalist design, with an incredible view of the city. He showed me to my room, which was on the opposite side of the penthouse from his. "This is your space, Lily," he said, his voice as calm as a placid lake. "It's all yours. I'll have a staff member deliver a credit card and phone with a new number. You'll need to update your wardrobe. I have a fashion consultant who can help you. I want you to be comfortable, but you also need to look the part of my wife. I don't want you to worry about a thing." "Thank you, Michael," I said, my voice shaky. I appreciate this." He nodded, his eyes meeting mine. "We're in this together now, Lily. For the next 2 years, we're a team." He walked to the door, and for a moment, I thought he would leave. But he paused, turning back to face me. "One more thing," he said, his voice softer. "I'm not going to pretend this is easy for either of us. We're 2 strangers getting married for business. But I promise you, I will always be honest with you and I will always protect you." I just nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. He left, and I was alone in my new home, a gilded cage with a view. The next few days were a blur of appointments, fittings, and learning the ropes of my new life. The fashion consultant Michael hired, a bubbly woman named Toby, was a godsend. She helped me pick out a new wardrobe, from sleek business suits to elegant evening gowns. She didn't question my sudden rise in status, she just treated me like a new client. Michael was a ghost. He was always at the office, working late, and our interactions were limited to brief text messages about our schedules. The silence between us was a strange kind of comfort. There was no pressure, no expectation. We were two ships passing in the night, bound by a contract but separate in our worlds. The day came for the big reveal. The Sunday family dinner at the Coleman mansion. My stomach was in knots. Michael had warned me about his family, about the judgment and scrutiny I would face. He had also told me about Victoria, his ambitious and conniving cousin, and how she and his grandfather were close. I chose a form-fitting red dress for the evening, a bold choice that Toby had recommended. It was a statement piece, a dress that said, "I am here, and I'm not afraid." Michael was waiting for me in the living room, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He looked at me, his gray eyes moving over my body. "You look." He paused, a flicker of emotion in his eyes. "Stunning, Lily. You look the part." "Thank you, Michael," I replied, my voice a little shaky. "You look like you." He let out a small chuckle, a rare sound that made my heart flutter. "Let's get this over with, shall we?" We drove to the Coleman mansion in his car, the silence between us more comfortable than before. He took my hand and squeezed it. It was a simple gesture, but it was enough to calm my nerves. When we arrived, the family was gathered in the drawing room, a sea of disapproving stares and curious glances. Michael introduced me to his family, and I met his mother, an elegant and aloof woman, his father, a stoic and reserved man, his sister, Valerie, who seemed more interested in her phone than in me, and his grandfather, a formidable old man in a wheelchair whose eyes seemed to bore right through me. Then, I met Victoria and her husband, Thomas. Victoria's smile was thin, her eyes filled with suspicion and jealousy. "So, you're the new flavor of the month, are you?" she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "Michael, you didn't even tell us you had a new girlfriend, let alone that you were engaged." "Lily is more than a girlfriend, Victoria," he said, his arm tightening around me. "She's going to be my wife." The room went silent. Grandfather Henry's eyes narrowed as he looked at me, a silent challenge in his gaze. "You're marrying her," he finally said, his voice a low growl. "Who is she?" "I don't recognize her family name." "Lily Anderson," I said, my voice steady despite the fear in my heart. "I'm a junior marketing executive at Coleman Enterprises." The room erupted in whispers. I could see the shock on their faces. Michael marrying an employee? This was a scandal, a surprise, and a shock. "A junior executive?" Victoria said, a cruel smirk on her face. "Michael, you're not seriously going to marry a junior executive, are you? What a disgrace to the family name." "Victoria," Michael's father said, his voice a warning. "That's enough." "It's not a disgrace, Victoria," Michael said, his voice cold and steady. "It's a testament to Lily's brilliance. She's intelligent, a hard worker, and she's not afraid to speak her mind. She's everything I need in a wife. She's not a trophy wife or a corporate spreadsheet, she's a partner." His words hit me like a ton of bricks. My heart fluttered in my chest. He was defending me, standing up for me in front of his entire family. Grandfather Henry stared at me, his eyes filled with suspicion. "You have 6 months, Michael. Let's see if this partnership lasts." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of public appearances, charity events, and business dinners. We had to announce our engagement to the world, and we did it with a press release that set the tabloids on fire. Michael Coleman, the city's most eligible bachelor, was engaged to a junior marketing executive from his own company. It was a story the media couldn't get enough of. We became a team, a well-oiled machine. He was the calm, reserved CEO, and I was the charming, elegant fiancé. We would go to events, smiling for the cameras, and then go back to our penthouse, where the silence and the space between us were a testament to the business deal we had made. But something was changing. The fake smiles and the choreographed touches began to feel real. We would talk for hours about work, about our families, about our dreams. We were two people who had been strangers, now connected by a strange and complicated contract. One night, we were at a charity gala, and a drunk socialite cornered me. She was a friend of Victoria's, and her eyes were filled with malice. "You're not fooling anyone, you know," she whispered, her breath reeking of gin. "We all know you're just here for the money. You're a gold digger, and Michael's just using you to get his inheritance. Once he gets it, he'll discard you like yesterday's news." I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The words were a dagger to my heart, but I had to stay strong. I looked at her, my eyes as cold as Michael's. "You're right," I said, my voice steady. "You're not fooling anyone. You're drunk, you're bitter, and you're projecting your own failures onto me. Why don't you go back to your husband? Or is he too busy cheating on you?" Her eyes widened in shock, and she stumbled back, her face a mask of rage. I saw Michael walking toward us, his expression unreadable. He had heard everything. "Are you all right, Lily?" he asked, his voice calm and steady. "I'm fine, Michael," I said, my voice still shaking. "Just a little misunderstanding." He nodded, his eyes fixed on the socialite. "I think you should go home, ma'am. You've had too much to drink." The woman, now sobered by his cold tone, nodded and stumbled away. He turned to me, his eyes filled with a strange kind of admiration. "You're a fast learner, Lily," he said, a ghost of a smile on his face. "You handled her perfectly." "I learned from the best," I replied, a small smile on my lips. "I'm the CEO of my own life now." He chuckled, a genuine, warm sound that made my heart flutter. "You are. And I'm proud of you." I looked at him, and for the first time, I saw him not as my boss or my contract husband but as a man who was, in his own way, as lost and alone as I was. We were two people playing a part, but somewhere along the way, the lines had blurred. I moved closer to him, and in an unscripted, unplanned moment, I leaned in and kissed his cheek. He froze, his body rigid with shock. I pulled away, my heart pounding in my chest, a blush creeping up my neck. "I'm sorry," I whispered. I just wanted to thank you." He looked at me, his gray eyes filled with a whirlwind of emotions. He didn't say a word, but he raised his hand and gently touched my cheek. The touch was soft, tender, and it sent a shiver down my spine. "Lily," he said, his voice a low growl. "Let's go home." The kiss on the cheek had changed everything. The comfortable silence was gone, replaced by a charged, unspoken tension. We were no longer two ships passing in the night. We were two people circling each other, a magnet pulling us closer. The day came for Michael's grandfather, Henry, to meet me for lunch. It was a test, a final examination, and I knew I had to be perfect. Michael drove me to the restaurant, a quiet, exclusive place with a breathtaking view of the city. He took my hand and squeezed it. "Relax, Lily," he said, his voice calm. "You can handle this. You've handled worse." "I know," I said, but my heart was pounding. "It's just, your grandfather. He's intimidating. He's a stubborn old man who thinks he knows everything," Michael said, a rare note of humor in his voice. "Just be yourself. He'll either love you or hate you, but at least he'll respect you." We walked into the restaurant, and Henry was waiting for us, his sharp eyes fixed on us. We sat down, and the interrogation began. "So, Ms. Anderson," he said, his voice a low growl. "Tell me about yourself. Why do you think you're good enough for my grandson?" "I don't think I'm good enough for anyone, Mr. Coleman," I said, my voice calm and steady. "I'm just a woman who works hard, loves her family, and tries to do the right thing. I fell in love with Michael, not his money or his name. And I believe in him, in his vision for this company. I think that's all that matters." Henry's eyes narrowed. "You fell in love with him in a few weeks? That's a little fast, isn't it?" "Love is a funny thing, Mr. Coleman," I said, a small smile on my face. "It happens when you least expect it. It's a risk, a leap of faith. But I'm a risk-taker." He stared at me for a long moment, his gaze unwavering. I didn't flinch. I held his gaze, a silent challenge in my eyes. Finally, he let out a low chuckle. "She's a feisty one, Michael. I'll give her that." The lunch was a success. I had passed the test. Henry had seen the fire in me, the strength, and the passion. He had seen that I was not a gold digger or a trophy wife. I was a fighter, just like him. When we got back to the penthouse, Michael and I were buzzing with a shared excitement. We had done it. We had fooled them all. He opened a bottle of champagne, and we toasted our success. The air was thick with unspoken words and desires. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a strange, new light. "You were incredible today, Lily," he said, his voice low and husky. "You've completely changed my grandfather's opinion of me. And for that, I am truly grateful." I blushed, my heart fluttering. I just told him the truth, Michael. I believe in you. I always have. He moved closer, his hand reaching out to touch my face. "Do you?" he whispered, his voice soft. "Do you believe in me?" "Yes," I said, my voice barely audible. "I do." He leaned in, his lips brushing against mine. The kiss was soft, tentative, a question. I answered with my own, a silent confession, a surrender. The kiss deepened, and a fire ignited between us. The contract, the deal, the past, the future, it all melted away, leaving only two people, two souls, connected by a moment of truth. The kiss broke, and we stood there, breathless, our foreheads touching. "Lily," he said, his voice a raw whisper. I can't do this anymore. This isn't just a business deal anymore." I looked at him, my heart pounding in my chest. "I know, Michael," I said, a single tear rolling down my cheek. "I know." And in that moment, I realized that the contract was a lie. We had fallen in love, and we were trapped in a deal that was supposed to keep us apart. But the heart wants what it wants, and sometimes, the best laid plans go to hell. Now, we had to figure out how to live a real life in a fake marriage. We stood in the middle of the penthouse living room, bathed in the soft glow of the city lights. The champagne on the table remained untouched, its promise of celebration now a hollow echo. The kiss had changed everything, tearing down the walls we had meticulously built between us. "We need to talk," Michael said, his voice still a rough whisper. He took my hand, leading me to the sofa, and we sat facing each other, the space that had once been an agreement now an awkward chasm. "Lily," he started, his gaze intense. What just happened, it wasn't part of the plan. I never expected to feel this way about you." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration and vulnerability I'd never seen from him before. "When I drew up that contract, it was purely a business transaction. I needed a wife to secure the company, and you needed a way to help your family. It was a clean, logical solution." "I know," I replied, my voice shaky. "That's what I thought too." But something shifted. Slowly, at first, with every conversation we had, every dinner, every time you defended me against your family. It stopped being about the money or the contract. It started being about you. He took my hands, his touch warm and reassuring. And for me, it stopped being about the company. The idea of losing my inheritance, of giving up everything my grandfather built, it used to terrify me. But now, the thought of not having you in my life, that's what's truly terrifying. "What do we do?" I asked, a fresh wave of panic washing over me. "The contract, we agreed to stay separate. This changes everything." "What happens in 2 years?" He didn't hesitate. "There is no 2 years. Not like that. I won't let you go. The contract is just a piece of paper. It doesn't mean anything anymore. We'll tell my grandfather the truth. We'll fight for us. But your inheritance, the company." I stammered. "What about Victoria?" A hard glint returned to his eyes. "The company is just a company, Lily. It's a legacy, but it's not my life. My legacy is with you. As for Victoria, she can try to take whatever she wants, but she won't win. My grandfather may be stubborn, but he's not a fool. He knows a true partnership when he sees one. We'll show him that what we have is more valuable than any shares or stock." He pulled me closer, his lips brushing against mine. "The best way to prove this isn't a lie is to make it a truth in every way. To hell with the contract, to hell with the bedrooms. I want to wake up next to you every morning, and I want to be the man you come home to every night." That night, our relationship was no longer defined by the cold, legal terms of a contract. It was a real, raw, and beautiful reality. We made love, and it was a revelation, not just a physical act but an emotional and spiritual surrender. It was the moment our fake marriage became real. The next morning, we drove to the Coleman mansion. The car ride was silent, not with tension, but with a comfortable quiet that spoke volumes. We walked into the Coleman mansion, hand in hand, a silent but palpable energy humming between us. We were no longer two individuals bound by a secret contract but a unified front, ready to face the world, and my grandfather. As we stepped into the drawing room, the quiet murmur of conversation ceased. The entire family was there, a sea of expectant faces, but it was my grandfather, Henry, who held my gaze. He sat in his wheelchair, his expression unreadable. I had expected shock, disbelief, perhaps even fury. Instead, his eyes seemed to pierce right through me, a glimmer of something I couldn't name. He gestured to two empty chairs facing him. "Sit," he commanded, his voice a low growl. As we sat, Victoria and her husband, Thomas, watched us like hawks. The family waited with bated breath. This was it. The moment of truth. "Grandfather," I began, my voice clear and steady. "Lily and I have something to tell you." I squeezed Lily's hand, and she returned the pressure, her strength a silent comfort. "This marriage, it's not what you think. It's real. I love her, and she loves me." The room remained silent for a beat too long. Victoria, unable to contain herself, burst into laughter. "What a pathetic performance, Michael. You're really trying to sell this, aren't you?" "I love her. Please." "Victoria," my father warned, his tone sharp. But Victoria ignored him, her smugness growing. "Grandfather, he's just trying to secure the company. He thinks you're naive enough to believe this little fairy tale." She turned to me, her voice dripping with venom. "Did you really think your love would win him over, Lily? We all know what this is. A 2-year contract, a little quid pro quo. You get the money, he gets the company. It's a classic business arrangement." My heart stopped. I stared at Victoria, then at Michael. His face was a mask of shock. How could she possibly know? The contract was confidential, locked away, a secret between us. My mind raced, but before I could process what she was saying, Grandfather Henry spoke. "She's right, Michael," he said, his voice surprisingly calm. "I knew about the contract from the start." A gasp went through the room. My parents, Valerie, even Victoria, seemed shocked. I turned to my grandfather, completely baffled. "How? How did you know?" He gave a small, weary smile. "I'm Henry Coleman. I built this empire. Do you think I'd hand over my life's work without a little insurance? I had a copy of the contract you so cleverly drafted, Michael. I knew all about the 2-year arrangement, the financial clauses, and the stipulation for no physical intimacy." The color drained from my face. The sheer audacity of his plan, the depth of his surveillance, was staggering. My grandfather hadn't just given me an ultimatum, he had set a test. He had known about the contract all along and had been watching to see if we would fall in love in spite of it. He looked at me, his gaze softening. "I was disappointed, son. I thought you had resorted to a quick fix, a soulless transaction. You chose a cold business deal over a real marriage. But then I started getting reports." He looked at Lily, a flicker of genuine warmth in his eyes. "I heard you two having dinner every night, not for show, but because you wanted to. I heard you talking about books and movies, not just quarterly reports. I saw the way you looked at her during that presentation, Michael, like she was the only person in the room. And I heard how you defended her at that charity gala. You chose to protect her even when it wasn't required by the contract. Your actions spoke louder than your words." My grandfather leaned forward, his voice losing its gruffness and becoming almost gentle. "The contract was a test, a safety net for me. I wanted to see if you could find a real partner on your own terms, without my interference. You chose to find her in the most unexpected place, your own company, and you chose to do it for all the right reasons." He paused, looking at me with a profound sense of pride. "You didn't just meet my terms, you exceeded them. You proved to me that you're not just a shrewd businessman, you're a man of integrity and character. A man who loves deeply." He turned to Victoria, his voice now a steel-cold whip. "Victoria, you were so busy watching for failure that you missed the victory. You were so focused on the money that you couldn't see the love right in front of you. You are not fit to run this company. You lack the one thing I value above all else, character." Victoria's face crumpled, her meticulously crafted plan unraveling before her eyes. "The company stays with Michael, Grandfather Henry announced to the room. Not because he met the terms of the contract, but because he proved he no longer needed them. He has a real wife now, a real partner. And that is a legacy more valuable than any shares. Victoria and her husband left in a fit of rage, and the rest of the family stared at us in shock and awe. Michael's mother, for the first time, hugged me. My son is a good man, Lily, she whispered. You've made him happy. His father shook his hand, a look of respect in his eyes. His sister, Valerie, looked at me and for the first time, she smiled. You're a badass, Lily, she said. I've been waiting for someone to put Victoria in her place. You did it beautifully. We left the Coleman mansion, hand in hand, our heads held high. We had lost everything, but we had gained something more valuable, our freedom. We were no longer bound by a contract, we were bound by love. We went back to the penthouse and sat in the living room, a comfortable silence between us. I looked at him, and he looked at me. Are you all right? I asked, my voice shaky. He knew all along. He smiled, a genuine, heartwarming smile that reached his eyes. I haven't lost anything, Lily, he said, his hand reaching out to touch my face. I've gained everything. I have you. The company is safe, but that's a bonus. The real prize is you. We'll build a new legacy, not just of business, but of love. And we'll do it on our own terms, with no contracts, no lies, and no secrets. We'll have a life, a real life, with real love. I leaned in and kissed him, a kiss that sealed our future, a kiss that was a promise, a kiss that was a new beginning. We were not just two people anymore, we were a team, a family, a unit. We were Michael and Lily, and we were in love. We had lost a battle, but we had won the war. We had lost a fake marriage, but we had found a real love. And it was all that mattered. The end. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share and subscribe, so you don't miss out on our next passion-filled and thrilling stories.